All right, folks, welcome back. Darkness is spitting everyone. Darkness. We're going to go dark on this one. Yes. Basically, I've been using my StreamYard account a little too much. So I know you guys are here, but most people just listen to this. They don't sit there and watch what's going on the screen or whatever. So we're just going to do it like this tonight. And we appreciate you. All right. So, that being said, let's get started on, yeah, StreamYard is what it is. They have a free version, and if things go well, I'm going to buy the paid version of it. I just can't do it right now. So it fills the void and helps, but there's a limit, and I have to kind of only be able to do so much. So, anyway. We are brought to you by Augusta Precious Metals, and we're going to go through this tonight with you. They do gold and silver IRAs. Gold and silver IRAs are great if you are trying to preserve your wealth, and they're one of the best, highest rated companies out there. There's an informative link in the description, and I'm going to try and get my Discord link in there as well. Okay. So, my apologies, it isn't in there. I'm going to add it to my little screen things when I go live and everything. It automatically pops up. But if the mods want to put that Discord in there and we can grow it and everything, I've never, it's tough for me to get away and to do things like Discord. I've got only enough to basically do what we do here. So if you guys want to go there and join the community, great. Telegram is another great place for that kind of stuff. Telegram, I like a lot, share a lot of stuff out on there. Haven't been able to go as much in the last, little while, but Telegram's great. So anyway, let's get started on your crisis report. This one is called Wicked Approaches. And that is because Wicked is approaching. So I'm going to go through this, and you guys just kind of chill out and listen, and I'll tell you all the intel that's going on for August 31st, 2025, Wicked Approaches. Mississippi health officials have declared a public health emergency after reporting state's highest infant mortality rate in more than a decade. President Trump says he wants James Comey and John Brennan to be arrested live on television. President Trump is set to sign an executive order banning mail-in voting, requiring voter ID, and stating that only paper ballots may be used. Climate activist Greta Thunberg has announced she will sail across the Mediterranean on her third attempt to break the Gaza siege. President Trump teases the something major is coming for East Palestine, Ohio. Community said has been abandoned and ignored by the Biden administration. If you remember what happened to East Palestine, there's a toxic train derailment that came through and ruined everything. And I'm glad that something's happened. Those people have been forgotten. Iran says it has dismantled a Mossad cell of 8 agents, accusing and plotting bomb attacks to take out senior politicians. Dr. F is allegedly hiding out in Siena, Italy, according to Dr. Robert Malone. Beverly Hills, California has voted to scrap its plan to fly Israeli flags at public schools, citing safety concerns and overwhelming backlash on social media. U.S. guided missile cruiser has been spotted crossing the Panama Canal after warships deployed to Venezuela. Trump administration is drawing up plans to rebrand the Department of Defense as the Department of War. For the first time, populist right-wing parties are leading the polls in the United Kingdom, France, and Germany. The entire population of Gaza would be relocated, and the United States would take control of the Palestinian territory under a plan being considered by the Trump administration, the Washington Post has reported. Trump defiantly has addressed unfounded health rumors with Truth Social response saying, never felt better in my life. Also, DC is a crime free zone. Trump wrote after the president took control of the DC Metropolitan Police Department. Guyana says shots fired from Venezuela at a boat carrying election materials. More than 60% of Gen Z in the United States support Hamas over Israel, according to the New York Post. Unless the birth rate at least gets back to replacement rate, Europe is dying out. We need to get it together. Benjamin Netanyahu on the takeout of the prime minister of Yemen and other ministers of Yemen. Quote, we will kill them all. This is the beginning. This is just the beginning of the strikes against senior officials in Sana'a, Yemen. We will reach them all. Oh, Australian post protesters. They're protesting against immigration today, attacking Israeli commentator and provocateur Avi Yemini. You might know him from Rebel News. Anti-immigration protests have erupted across Australia. Israel plans to imprison Greta Thunberg and declare her a terrorist for trying to break the siege and deliver food to Gaza, according to the Telegraph. They misspelled siege. Good Lord, folks. Israeli National Security Minister is drafting plans to detain Greta Thunberg and company in terrorist-level conditions and seize their vessels for repurposing as a maritime force for police operations. Ursula von der Leyen was booed today in Bulgaria, where she visited a military factory. They said, National Socialist Germany, small mustachioed leader woman, go home. Houthis storm the UN building in the Yemeni capital Sana'a, detaining several employees after Israel killed their prime minister. Ursula von der Leyen on a visit to weapons factories from Europe said today in Bulgaria, huge production of weapons in factories across Europe intended for Ukraine, financed by the EU. Many factories have already been transformed from ordinary products to weapons production. This is also happening in Switzerland, which has abandoned neutrality. Latest headlines from the European Union regarding Ukraine and the peace formula. European leaders are going to meet in Paris on Thursday to discuss Ukraine. European Commission, we will seek sustainable funding for the Ukrainian army. European Commission, Putin does not do what he promises to Trump. And they said that Putin refuses to come to the negotiating table. And they said the agreement reached with America on guarantees for Ukraine. And they said that America will have a presence in the guarantees plan for Ukraine, and that we have a very precise plan to deploy forces in Ukraine because they're just gluttons for punishment. Armenia and Pakistan have officially signed an agreement to establish diplomatic relations. This historic step was formalized with the signing and exchange of a joint communique by Armenia's Foreign Minister Ararat Mirzoyan and Pakistan's Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Ishaq Dar on the sidelines of the 25th Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit in Tianjin, China. Both countries have committed to strengthening bilateral cooperation in fields such as economy, education, cultural, tourism, while reaffirming adherence to the principles of the UN Charter. Previously, Pakistan had not recognized Armenia, and its stance was influenced by its longstanding support for Azerbaijan in the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict. New diplomatic engagement follows the recent peace agreement between Armenian and Azerbaijan brokered by the U.S., signaling a significant diplomatic shift for Pakistan after decades of no formal ties with Armenia. According to reports, 350 ERAM missiles are heading to Ukraine. Ukraine's offensive capabilities look set to receive a significant boost in the coming months with the announcement that the U.S. has authorized a European funded $850 million sale of 3,350 extended range attack munitions, or ERAM. Drone attack and consecutive explosion sounds have been reported in the vicinity of the Engels Air Base in the Saratov region of Russia. Lithuania has begun an extensive effort to further reinforce its border with Belarus and Russia, with the Lithuanian Armed Forces and Border Guard having deployed Dragon's Teeth. Only 4 Houthi ministers remain alive in Sana'a. The rest have all been reportedly killed in the Israeli strike the day before yesterday, according to Al Hadaf. Yemeni Houthi government ministers have reportedly fled the capital, Sana'a, following the Israeli strikes. There is currently no Houthi government present in the capital, according to Al Arabiya. Quote, we intend to launch strikes deep into Russia, according to Zelensky. Russia used the lead up to the August 15th Alaska summit to stockpile drones and missiles, conducted with more limited strikes against Ukraine to falsely present itself as a good faith negotiator in the U.S. administration. Russia will likely escalate its strikes against Ukraine in the coming weeks to leverage its replenished missile and drone stockpiles and degrade Ukrainian energy infrastructure ahead of the coming winter. Excuse me. U.S. has now officially delivered a warning to Russia diplomats via the UN that if it doesn't take positive steps towards reaching a peace deal, the U.S. will be compelled to issue back-breaking sanctions on Russia. Abu Obaida has been brought to justice. The man was taken out in the Israeli strikes on Hamas. Israel is seriously debating annexing parts of the West Bank in response to Western countries' push to recognize a Palestinian state, stating the move depends on Trump's approval. Israel will also target senior Hamas leaders abroad, according to the IDF. Offices of the World Food Program were entered by local security forces on Sunday morning, spokesperson of the agency told CNN in Yemen. Ukrainian drone unit working with the Ukrainian intelligence primary has reportedly taken out a series of high-value Russian targets on the Crimean Peninsula. Those include the UTS-T radar system, or UTS-T radar system, the RT-70 radio telescope, a GLONASS complex, the MR-10 M1 MYS coastal radar, and 96L6-AP radar from an S-400 battery. I've been doing a lot of war coverage in my time. I've never seen any of those radar systems read out loud. Leader of the breakaway region of Donetsk, Denis Pushlin, says Russian forces have completely secured the southern part of the DPR and are now pushing into the Dnepropetrovsk region to create a buffer zone. 6.7 magnitude earthquake has struck between the Afghanistan and Pakistani border. Someone needs to check in on Canada. This is what I referenced over on PrepperNow. Capital is flying out of the country at a record pace like it just got elbowed in the head. Kind of outflow creates a chain reaction. Dollar gets volatile, borrowing costs rise, institutional confidence fades, and domestic capital becomes harder and more expensive to raise. These are called unintended consequences, and they are happening because of what their absolutely awful government is doing. Sorry. Tonight, polar. Cool. 44% of new debt in France acquired after 2017 is spent funding the French welfare system, mostly retirement pensions. Updated graphics on the French national debt and retirement pension. Since 2017, when Emmanuel Macron took office, France accumulated 1 trillion euros in debts. 490 billion of it was spent on French boomers and their retirement pensions, or 50% of all the debt was wasted for the comfort of people who had a few short more years to live, which the new generations now have to spend decades to pay back. Ooh. Total national debt of France is worth 3.3 trillion euros, or 113% of the French GDP, and one third of it was acquired in the last 8 years. Unsustainable. There's a great retrospective in the Wall Street Journal today on how the UK's post Brexit experiment with big increases in legal immigration went wrong. Their mistakes yield some important policy lessons for supporters and critics and of skilled immigration. And let's dive in. The too long didn't read version is what was intended to be skilled immigration surged the main catastrophic mistake of setting visa criteria based on college degrees and workers filling so-called labor shortages, ultimately leading instead to a surge in low-skilled rather than high-skilled immigration. And so after the Rona, the UK dramatically increased net migration, shifting away from the EU towards migrants from outside Europe. Plan was initially supposed to be limited. UK post-Brexit would be free to go and attract top talent, but things went wrong quickly. Skilled work included roofers alongside business executives. Nothing wrong with roofing, but system was then blown apart by businesses claiming labor shortages rather than raise pay. Businesses appealed for special carve-outs in areas like construction, basing their visa programs on so-called filled shortages. Invited this kind of lobbying. Nobody agrees on what a labor shortage actually means. The UK is a technocratic body meant to identify them, but it's ultimately just vibes and raw interest group battles. UK rubber stamped visas for students and their dependents, regardless of the quality of the program or school in which they enrolled. There was a subsequent explosion in low quality degree programs catering to foreign students and their dependents to take advantage of the option. Germany, France, Norway, Sweden, and Italy, one after the other, have asked their citizens to leave Iran immediately and quickly. All parties except the AfD have pledged to speak only positively about immigration in the upcoming local election campaign in the West German city of Cologne. Year marks the 10th anniversary of the New Year's Eve 2015 Cologne, when hundreds of bunch of sexual assaults happened by migrants, sending shockwaves around the world. Bishop Barron slammed Minneapolis Mayor Fry's mockery of prayer as, quote, completely asinine after the Annunciation Catholic school problem. Catholics don't think that prayer magically protects them from all suffering. After all, Jesus prayed fervently from the cross in which he was dying, end quote. Correct. Tax advisors in the UK are telling their clients to sell their businesses and leave the UK. Anti-immigration protests erupted in Midosuji, central Osaka. Oh, excuse me. Let me do that in Japanese. Midosuji, central Osaka, as the controversial regarding of the Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba plans to bring dozens of thousands of overseas exchange students and workers from Africa under the Japan International Cooperation Agencies. White House believes Europe is secretly sabotaging peace negotiations between the Russians and the Ukrainians. No. Senior White House officials believe some European leaders are publicly supporting publicly supporting President Trump efforts to end the war in Ukraine while quietly trying to undo behind the scenes progress since the Alaska summit. 2 weeks after the summit between President Trump and Vladimir Putin, there's been little clear progress toward ending the war. Frustrated Trump aides contend the blame should all fall on European allies, not Trump or President Vladimir Putin. White House officials are losing patience with European leaders whom they claim are pushing Ukraine to hold out for unrealistic territorial concessions by Russia. Axios has learned that the sanctions in the U.S. are urging Europe to adopt against Russia include a complete cessation of oil and gas purchases, plus secondary tariffs from the EU on India and China, similar to those that are already put on India by the U.S. Europeans don't get to prolong the war and backdoor unreasonable expectations while also expecting America to bear the cost, a top White House official stated. Europeans are said to be pushing Zelensky to hold out for a better deal, a maximalist approach that has exacerbated the war, Trump's inner circle states. Perhaps both sides of this war are not ready to end it themselves. The president wants it to end, but the leaders of these two countries need it to end and must want it to end as well, White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt stated. Senior White House official told Axios that Trump is seriously considering stepping back from the diplomatic efforts until one of the two parties begin to show more flexibility. Please do that, sir. Some U.S. officials have begun to see European leaders as a major obstacle, despite the fact that Trump held a friendly meeting with them and Zelensky less than 2 weeks ago. And how does the EU plan to defend itself against a possible Russian invasion? Could they build a competent war industry and field large armies? Well, no, that would be too intelligent. EU will turn the continent into one giant bog. European countries have dried up their bogs and swamps centuries ago to make room for the expansions of farms and cities, but that doesn't make sense now because idiots. Now the EU is preparing to literally destroy human settlements in order to, quote, revive the bogs. Another reason the EU is supportive of this plan to revive the continent's long-gone swamps is that it will combat climate change. Bogs are very good for carbon retention. Even Politico's authors recognize this plan as an act of desperation. After the EU failed to kickstart its defense industry 3.5 years after war broke out, a war which Russia had been building up for since 2008 and refuses to negotiate with Russia, clinging on to its international law except when Israel is involved. Ouch. Russia is finalizing its strategic regrouping, having redeployed forces from Sumy and Kherson. Its offensive will likely enter a new phase soon. 155th and 40th Marine Brigades are already in Donetsk, with the 177th Regiment likely in now. Their most probable attack vector is towards Dobropilya, Druzhkivka. Airborne forces, most likely the 11th VDV Brigade and elements of the 76th VDV Division, were spotted nearby after urgent transfers in the hottest direction. Their exact axis of attack remains unclear. Lastly, the 70th Motor Rifle Division, 18th Army, is currently transferring from Kherson to Bakhmut due to urgent reinforcement needs. Their task may involve increasing pressure on either Kostantinivka or Seversk. Chinese engineer hired by Elon Musk uploaded XAI's entire code base to OpenAI, then left the company and sold $7 million worth of stock. According to Musk, Zhuchen Li took a job offer at OpenAI right before uploading the code. It's problematic. New parliamentary election poll shows Macron's party, Renaissance, at only 13% in the polls, or 100 of 577 seats. Ouch. Renaissance and the other allied parties have 159 seats in the French parliament currently. National Rally and the Union of the Right of Republic, led by Eric Ciotti, are polling at an all-time high of 31%. Leftist parties like the Socialist Party, Ecologists, La France Insoumise collectively poll at 26%. With the toppling of the Bayrou cabinet imminent, it is unlikely that Macron will call for another snap election, as it won't be possible to form another minority government like the Barnier and Bayrou cabinets of Renaissance gets just 100 seats. Macron has terrible options. Try and form a third minority cabinet with the center right and left, which will fail like the previous two, or trigger the dictatorial powers provided by Art 16 of the French, or Article 16 of the French Constitution. These dictatorial powers come under review every 60 days by Parliament, who can withdraw them, and if Macron refuses, he will be ousted. Emmanuel Macron being ousted before his term ends in 2027 looks even more certain. Macron. And about 200 communists tried to block the roughly 50,000 Aussies from reaching Parliament today. They may have succeeded in setting up a front line and working with police to establish a double system front line to stop the march and separate the groups. However, we had 60 black shirts at the front of the march who readily deployed in front of the banner and moved the commies on before police could use it as an excuse to stop the march. So, if you are not really into what's going on with your communist governments, plan ahead like the Australians. Have a game plan. And I also read another thing that the United Kingdom, they have all these like videos and stuff they're up to take facial recognition and like issue tickets and manage, control over the driving and all that. Well, the Blade Runners have effectively taken out in many different communities many of the cameras that are there. And if you don't know what a Blade Runner is, they're basically these people that have these power saws, go up, cut down the pole, and take out the entire surveillance system. There is a backlash coming, and these people, may God have mercy on their soul. If they keep doing this kind of crap, and the tide turns and people really start to figure out that ultimately there's more of them than there are of these communist governments, Katie bar the door, as they say where I come from. They will inherit the wind. Friends, that is your crisis report. It's a long one, I know. Yep, you can do better than 33. Come on, folks. No, I appreciate you being here. We're going to call this dark mode. Sorry. I know. You guys need to look at a bobbing head or some really cool visuals or something like that. Maybe I should make a bunch of fake AI and put it on. That'll do well here. My favorite is the boat that has it's not really a boat, but it's got a slide like you see on the side of a pool, like not like a personal pool, not like a big pool. And the super fat lady climbs up it, goes down the thing, slides off the thing into the ocean because they're in the middle of the ocean, and creates a wave that would like take out Honolulu or something like that. It's got millions of views here. Why? I'll take my dark mode intel any day of the week over some inane freaking 38 seconds of dopamine. All right, friends, God bless you all. Please hit the like button. Join me on Gab, Minds, Truth, Social, X, Twitter, Subscribestar, Locals, all that. I've been populating those today. Hope you have a wonderful Labor Day, and we will see you on the next one. Double tap that screen, hit the like button, do whatever the heck it is you do. God bless you, and we'll see you on the next one. Have a great night.